if you want to learn bebop but you can only check out one solo, then I think this Doug Raney solo is a pretty good candidate. This is the solo on the Charlie Parker tune Mohawk, which is a blues in B flat. And I think the way that Doug Raney is using octave displacement and chromatic enclosures and adding 8-note triplets to his lines is really a great example of some of the very typical bebop things that you definitely want to have in your vocabulary. In fact, I think that this solo contains what I already shared on social media as being the perfect bebop phrase. My name is Larsen. If you want to learn more about jazz guitar and use that to make music, then subscribe to my channel. If you want to make sure not to miss anything, then click the little bell notification icon next to the subscribe button. This solo is on a B-flat blues, and this is actually off the Doug Raney quartet album called Something's Up, which in the meantime has become one of my favorite Doug Raney albums. I didn't really know it before. Another one that I would suggest you check out is Rainey 96, which is quite a few years later. Really, since it's a blues in B-flat, he really starts playing blues phrases. This is the first phrase in the solo. He comes in at the end of the first bar and then really just playing minor pentatonic stuff. At the end of the third bar, when it goes back from E flat to B flat, he returns to the changes and really plays into the third of the B flat 7. And from here he plays something that is essentially an 2-5 to E flat, so just F minor 7, B flat 7, starting already on the third beat of that bar. So that's at the end of the bar, just before he transitions, he alters the dominant and resolves down to the third of E flat. What you have here is just Doug Raney sort of really emphasizing the fact that this is a B-flat blues, these are the changes, and this is how you play a great line on the changes. You should notice already here that he's actually not using that many arpeggios. He plays a lot more scale lines, he relies a lot less on playing arpeggios. You'll see that in the other examples as well. This second example is only a short time after the first example, because this is the beginning of the second chorus. And of course, a 12-bar blues, the chorus is not that long. But already here, he's really trying to take things to a different place and not playing the same kind of thing. So in the first chorus, he's just trying to lay down the fact that it's a blues, play clearly in the changes and keeping everything sort of neat and tidy. But already here, he starts moving things around. He plays across the bar line. And also he's really changing the chords. So he starts with a pickup that's still just blues essentially. So then moving into this phrase, using a similar idea with sliding into a note here. He plays an A flat major triad, slides up to the 13, so the G on the B flat 7. Then we get a scale one. And then already here in the second bar, he's already going into something that's kind of like a B flat 7 altered. And he kind of sticks to that, even though the phrase that he's playing is still something you could consider just a minor pentatonic phrase. It kind of sounds like, at least to me, it sounds like a diminished, so B flat 7 diminished type of sound. So, and he extends the B flat 7 into the E flat 7. So the first bar of E flat 7 is really these two notes, which is like the 7 and the sharp 11 of the B flat, and not really related to E flat, resolving on the forehand to E flat. So really just a bar later. So what we have here is a phrase that's not blues. It's a lot more vague. It's still sort of a bebop line, but he's also only playing two sounds, and he's not really changing chords in the same places where we expect them. So he's not really clearly sticking to the bar lines, but he's really just playing B flat 7 for a bit, and then he plays this long phrase that is some sort of B flat 7 altered. Where the first example was really clear and also just demonstrating some bop lines and some blues phrases, then the second and also this third example are really more examples of how Doug Raney is, besides being really good at bebop, also later than bebop. In this case, he's using a lot of Lydian dominant, and he's also using some dotted quarter notes, which is actually similar to what his father was doing also with these groups of 3 or 6 8 notes a lot in the video that I made of him. So the first part of it is really just using this B flat 7 flat 5 sound. He doesn't play the third, but it is really emphasizing that. He repeats that phrase, and then he starts this long row of dotted quarter notes on the E flat 7, again a sharp 11 on the E flat 7, and then just a B flat altered in bar 4, and then an alter scale one, and then to E flat 7. And this is something also that you'll see if you check out the rest of the solo. He's using the Lydian dominant on the E flat 7, especially in the second bar of the E flat 7, really often. So a phrase like this, where he's really using the augmented triad, D flat augmented, really a lot. Calling this solo, or at least this segment of the solo, the ultimate place to learn bebop vocabulary is somewhat of a bold claim. At the same time, I think it is a really great example of how Doug Raney is using some very common phrases in a very musical way and really plays a great solo with those phrases. If you have another example that you think is a really great example of bebop on guitar, then please leave a comment on this video, because of course it's always interesting to have new ideas and new inspiration and new material to check out. This phrase is what I would consider sort of the ultimate bebop vocabulary phrase. If you check out, well, this chorus, maybe the next chorus as well, then you can really distill a lot of very important smaller bebop phrases that you want to have in your playing. So it makes the most sense to also analyze it like that. The first part is probably the most common way to use chromaticism on a B flat 7, which is going from the root down to the 7th. Then we get octave displacement down to the C, skipping down to C. Leading note again, and then here we get a very common enclosure of the F, which is also something, actually again something he uses several times in the solo, also in different keys, like he's using it on the C minor as well. Then we get a scale one, and then again the first chromaticism, altering the dominant in the 4th bar, and then also another very common way to approach the 3rd of the next chord. So really pointing towards the G here on the E flat 7. On the G we get another example of octave displacement. And then we get a few notes that are not bebop related necessarily, even though he's playing a lot of offbeats. Augmented triad. And Doug Raney uses really a lot of legato in his playing, so there's a lot of slides, there's a lot of hammer-on pull-offs. I think the way he plays this one, and sometimes it's kind of hard to tell what is what actually, but I think he plays it like this. So he's sliding up into the G, and then playing the A flat and the G as a hammer-on pull-off. Then we get another very typical bebop phrase, which is on the G7, so it's a G7 flat 9, and he's using the B diminished arpeggio, but he's adding the sharp 9 as well as the flat 9, so the A flat and the B flat, and then down to the F, resolving that to E flat. The reason that I can keep on publishing videos every week is that there is a community of people over on Patreon that are supporting the channel. I'm very grateful for their support, and it's because of them that I can keep on making all these jazz guitar and music theory videos. If you want to help me keep making videos, then check out my Patreon page, and if you join us over on Patreon, then I can also give you something in return for your support. This example is really just continuing where the other one left off, so I'm coming out on the C minor with the E flat here, and we get another example of octave displacement because he's playing from E flat down to the G here, coming out on the E flat on the F7 again, a flat 9, then we get the approach to the 3rd of the B flat 7 coming from the root here, so which you've already seen him use a few times in the examples already. So, and then we get this sort of displaced phrase where he's using first major pentatonic, and then minor pentatonic. Then instead of sliding up to the major third, he's sliding up to the minor third, and then ending the phrase with sliding into the F and then playing the B flat on top of that. What's interesting about this is that the way this phrase is placed, you would actually expect the 3 to be the 1. So he's ending the phrase in the middle of the bar, and he's also sort of putting the part of the phrase that should be on the 1 on the 3 all the time. So. And then continuing with a blues phrase, sliding into the third. And then another example of him using alto dominant for 2 bars. So really going to the alto dominant earlier than what you sort of normally expect in a bebop solo, because there it would be sort of in bar 4, just before it goes to E flat. But here he's already going really to the flat 13 earlier. If you want to check out another Raney that's also heavily influenced by bebop, then check out this video where I'm analyzing Doug Raney's father, Jimmy Raney. If this is the first time you see one of my videos and you want to learn more about jazz guitar, then subscribe to my channel. If you want to help me keep making videos, then check out my Patreon page. That's about it for this time. Thank you for watching, and until next time.